Hello, Julie.
Hello, my friend. Good to be
Hmm.
here.
Oh, I have been so looking forward to meeting up today. I have this curiosity just in my head has been piqued with, what poem has found Julie today? I want to know all about it.
Oh, well, I think I found a really good one, and or it found me. It found me is the best way to put it. There's this great movie that I saw back in the like early '90s called Songcatcher,
Hmm.
and it's about um, Appalachian music. And so Appalachian music wasn't necessarily written down in musical notes because most musicians that come out of that region are self taught or they learn from another musician how to play, but so they
Right.
don't necessarily read music. And so there was this language about when you were trying to learn a song, you were catching a song.
Oh.
And so I feel like I'm a poem catcher. I sort of like start thinking about something and then kind of activates the energy and somebody leads me to something and so and pretty soon boom I find the one that I'm supposed to find. It's
Hmm.
me. The one that I'm supposed to find finds me. So
So, I'm curious about the one that found you, and I'm curious about how it hooked you.
well I will tell you I have as we are now into this crazy pandemic 2020 siege that is for us here in Arizona, not only not getting better, it's really increased as social distancing has not been,
Right.
followed the same standards. And now here we are, really dealing with another round. Um, I don't even know if to call it another round. It's not improving. If anything, we know we've got a long fall, summer to
Right.
fall ahead of us. And so I've been really missing people who I love, just human touch. And I was thinking the other night, I wonder if there's such thing as touch hunger. Like I feel like I have touch hunger. Like I'm hungry for human touch. And that
Yes.
led me to really thinking about, like, I have a grandmother who I adored, and she was like my person, probably the most important person in my life. And after my grandfather died, my grandmother lived alone for many, many years. And we didn't live in the same state, but I would go to visit her. I couldn't go for more than a few months. I like really
Hmm.
needed to spend time with her. And she was at a place in life where she wasn't traveling this way. So I would go and visit her in Illinois. And when I was there, she could not stop touching me. She always had to sit right next to me. She was always touching my curly hair. She was always just brushing her hand across my face. When we'd walk, she'd take my hand to hold my hand. And I never bothered me. I loved her. I never felt like sort of like she was, but I recognized how hungry she was for touch.
Hmm.
It's been now this kind of expanded period of time, and I haven't been able to touch my grandchildren or my
Oh.
daughter. Um, there's a sweet little dog here that like will come and like lay next to me, and I'm just like so thrilled because I have something to love. But yeah, so that started me on that journey of, wow, I wonder if there's such thing as touch hunger because I'm feeling that. And then I started thinking about this quiz I took several years ago about your love language. What is your love language? By Dr. I think it's Gary Chapman.
Mm-hmm.
I've taken the quiz probably 3 times to see if anything, it's always my way of like, is this legit? Is this really good? So every time, touch is my number one love language.
Oh, Julie.
Then the next one is quality time. And I'm not getting to spend quality time with people, and I'm not getting touch. So
Right.
those are two dominant love languages. So I thought, wow, that's
Mm.
really interesting.
So
And
this is what you're putting out as you're moving through the week. These are,
so I'm
um,
playing with these thoughts, like,
yes.
And then I thought, gosh, if infants aren't touched, they die.
Mm-hmm.
You can take care of all their needs as far as changing a diaper with minimum touch. You can make sure that they're fed. But if you're not loving them up, if you're not, soothing them and comforting them, and they can develop these awful non-thriving illnesses, and they can literally die from that. And I was like, oh, and that kind of like was lingering with me a little bit. And I started thinking about that works for children too, when young children are in preschool and in grade school. Sometimes they just need to come and like stand next to you and get that
Mm-hmm.
comfort.
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering, how many, within a family dynamic, you want to hope that sense of lovingness, tenderness, connection is still dominant in everybody's lives. But touch can be lovely and comforting, and it can be painful, and it can be loaded with, you know, two things, darkness and joy and all that. So I was sort of really lingering over this idea of, how much affection and touch releases oxytocin in our brain, and is like that's the joy uplifting hormone. And if we're not getting that, how do we how how do we steer our lives as we're navigating something that doesn't look like it's going to be shifting much? And
Right.
if it's somebody who isn't in a significant loving relationship, and if you live alone, um, and if you're in a household and it's maybe not, you're not getting those comforting feelings because you used to get that externally, kind of loaded. So it's
Yes.
like a very charged topic that I have been pondering and thinking about.
So I'm feeling this here, and I am listening to you, how you put this out into the world from a heart place. And I have
Mm-hmm.
to tell you, my curiosity is piqued. I'm so curious about what came back to you as a balm for this.
So it's sort of so as I've been kind of pondering that and thinking about that, what I have really done is been reaching out much more to people in my life. And I already say I'm a pretty good connector. I don't go for period of time where I don't reach out to my loved ones or do a Zoom or do a FaceTime message with someone.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I started reaching out to people who I know live alone and asking them, how are you doing? What are you reading right now? Do you have any creative things you're working on? I'd love to see I'd love to see pictures of your, whatever it is you're working on. Do you want to get on a Zoom call? And that led me to a friend who asked me, hey, have you ever heard of a poet named Ellen Bass?
Hmm.
And I had not. She has this really kind of nice little book called The Human Line, and you might enjoy checking it out. So I sort of like tucked it away, and actually wrote it or typed it on my phone to check.
Mm-hmm.
And so, um, let's see, today is Wednesday. So I would say Sunday, I started the hunt of, I want to start kind of, finding my poem. And nothing was really coming to me. And so I thought, okay, well, don't force it. Remember, poems find you. So I sort of gave it a bit of a rest. And then Monday night, I got an email with the link to this poem
Oh,
saying, this is the poet I was telling you about. And so it was like, all right, this is the poem.
this poet really wanted to find you.
This poet wanted to find me. And as I went then and read a little bit about her, so I could find a little bit of the backstory, her name is Ellen Bass, Bass. She is a recipient of so many awards and fellowships. Um, the the majority that I was finding were from the National Education Association, where she's received a lot of fellowships. She is, let's see, she's received 3 pushcart prizes, and that's an American literary prize. Pushcart is a publishing house.
Okay.
She has won the Levi's Prize, the New Letters Prize, like all these names of special awards that I didn't even know existed. So
Mm-hmm.
imagine she won a lot of literary prizes for her work, nonfiction as well as poetry.
Hmm.
So I found that interesting. She has written a groundbreaking book called The Courage to Heal, a guide to women survivors of child sexual abuse, and another book called Free Your Mind, the book for gay, lesbian, and bisexual youth. So I'm seeing a theme in somebody who is a champion
Yes.
for causes, a champion for human beings who have been marginalized for whatever reason.
Yes.
And so I would say she's a very tender-hearted soul,
Mm-hmm.
and words and how she puts words together, very intentional, very thoughtful, and obviously is recognized for that work.
Yes.
She is the chancellor of the American Academy of the Academy of American Poets. So she's risen through the ranks of a leadership role within that organization. Let's see, she teaches workshops at the Salinas Valley State Prison in Santa Cruz,
Oh,
California.
wow.
She teaches at Pacific University. She has a master's of fine arts writing program that she teaches.
Okay.
So powerful,
Yes.
achieved beautiful, beautiful things with her writing, and has touched probably some very marginalized human beings and helped them tap into how poetry and words and finding your way are available to everyone.
And taking the healing power of poetry and words to these communities, I'm just feeling, um, yeah, like you said, her tender-hearted soul of bringing this to communities. Wow, that feels really nice, Julie. So, what poem found you?
So the poem is entitled If You Knew.
If you knew. Well, how about um, I wasn't sure what you were bringing, but I brought the heart bowl with me today. And so, as you're talking about Ellen Bass being a tender-hearted soul, um,
Mhm.
yeah, now I know why the heart bowl wanted to join us today. So
Perfect.
maybe I could play the bowl for just a bit and allow and invite everyone to just settle in to your comfy, easy place with just a few gentle, easy breaths.
Nice. If you knew, what if you knew you'd be the last to touch someone?
Hmm.
If you were taking tickets, for example, at the theater, sharing them, giving back the ragged stubs, you might take care to touch that palm or brush your fingertips along the line's crease. When a man pulls his wheeled suitcase too slowly through the airport, when the car in front of me doesn't signal, when the clerk at the pharmacy won't say thank you, I don't remember they're going to die.
Mm.
A friend told me she'd been with her aunt. They just had lunch, and the waiter, a young gay man with plum black eyes, joked as he served the coffee, kissed her aunt's powdered cheek when they left. Then they walked a half a block, and her aunt dropped dead on the sidewalk. How close does the dragon's spume have to come? How wide does the crack in heaven have to split? What would people look like if we could see them as they are? Soaked in honey, strung and swollen, reckless, pinned against time.
Wow, Julie, that just cuts through everything and brings us back to what really matters.
Mm,
The
yeah,
last to touch someone.
yeah. I felt like when I read this, um, it was so interesting how the question is like, as human beings, we seem to be most alive when we're aware of the shadow sort
Mm.
of death. And, that it hovers over us in many ways. And I guess it's our mortality, it's our living that that makes it all the more precious. Connection and that concept of just what if you knew you'd be the last person to ever touch someone? My greatest heartbreak is that I wasn't with my grandmother when she passed. I was moving heaven and earth to get there. I was getting calls from her doctor, you know, she's in a coma, but we're doing our best so that you can get here and say goodbye. And I know my grandmother. My grandmother was a classy lady to the end, and I am sure she did not want me to see her that way. And yet, I miss that I didn't get to be the last one to touch her.
Hmm.
That feeling. So yeah, human touch. What if that's such a yeah, it would change everything when we're angry with somebody, when we're in a hurry, when we forget to slow down and see somebody, fully see them, and realize all they might need is just a squeeze. You know,
Yes.
so yeah, human touch has really been sort of in my radar.
Yes. Boy, Julie, just this that just drops it down, to it's odd. It drops for me. It drops it down to a deeper level, but a higher level at the same time. We've heard, make sure you say, I love you when someone's leaving in case you don't see them again. Don't go to bed angry. But this touch, what if it's the last time you touch them and have that connection? Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
that.
I'm really looking forward to being able to touch my loved ones again.
Mm. Hmm. I think
And
this
I
is.
there are many folks out there that are longing for that as well.
Yeah, I'm fortunate enough to be staying at home with other people, and I get to touch people every day. But even with that, I am missing hugging. When you see someone, whether you just saw them yesterday or 3 days ago, that hug, hello, goodbye, that I'm just craving that.
Right. Yeah, it's funny too. I was thinking as I then was starting to think about touch, and like I was thinking that there's a poem in me that needs to be written about this topic. And I was thinking about, oh gosh, all those like adolescents who, you know, I don't know if you remember this feeling, but having, a boy in high school, for example, like sort of brush against you, you know, and you're like reaching into your locker or something, like those sort of like those feelings of tenderness that are just part of our humanness.
Yeah,
There's so much of that right now that is going to be strange for a certain generation of really little kids coming up through
yeah,
this.
yeah,
And as schools are getting back to whatever the new normal is going to be like for schools, how strange is that going to be for especially a generation of kids who've really grown up with touching and I love you and being much more about their connected friendships than maybe earlier generations even.
right.
There's so many layers to this onion that are fascinating to me as and for little kids who don't have grandparents now that they're getting regular hugs and kisses, remembering as we approach them that may feel really foreign and weird to them. So we have to like ask if it's okay. Is it okay for me to give you a hug? And be prepared that it may not be okay because they've heard about the coronavirus.
This
Nona?
this it reminds me, Julie, of late 80s and early 90s, one of my first jobs out of graduate school was working in a housing agency for people with HIV and AIDS. And talk about a population that didn't get touched. And so, the power of sometimes sitting with them, we didn't exchange words. It was just a simple hand on their hand, or a hand on their arm, or on their foot. Um, just a touch of people being starved for touch, any human touch. So it's powerful. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to me, anybody who watches our poem reading for today, um, if they would comment and let us know if they are also experiencing this idea of touch hunger,
Touch hunger. Yeah.
and even any suggestions they may offer up about kind of how they're working with it. And yeah, I'd be curious to know.
Yeah. I will encourage folks to share. I'd like to hear, both sides of how is this experience for you? How are you experiencing touch hunger? And then how are you moving through that? And I'm curious if there are other senses that are heightened that you are doing more of. Um, like for me, I'm doing more letter writing and staying connected, and having to sit down and really center myself of, I'm going to write this letter to Julie, and how do I want to connect to Julie in this way? So I'm curious other ways that people are finding that they may not have connected previously.
Mhm. Yeah.
All right. Well, you are a poem catcher. Let's just put that out there. I second that. You are a poem
I'm gonna
catcher.
start putting that after I sign my
I
name. I
think
like
so.
it.
And I really appreciate you sharing, Julie, your way of going about this. That you are sending these thoughts and feelings out to the universe and waiting to see what comes back to you in the way of a poem.
Mhm.
So lovely.
It's yeah, it's that fun recognition that when you want to play and you set the intention with the universe, it works that way.
It
That
just works.
works that way. That you get out of your head and you connect to your heart and you're ready to play and you come from that space. It just seems to always flow that way for me. So I don't take that for granted. But I sure enjoy it. So,
Well, thanks for sharing your process, and thanks for modeling the setting the intention and the patience of waiting for that to come back to you. All
yeah.
right, my friend. Until
All
next
right.
time,
All right. Enjoy the rest of your week.
you as well. I'll see you soon.
All right. Bye bye.
Bye.